I don't go to work every day, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Obviously, how's that saying go? Live life on your own terms.
Hey investors, Bradley here from Watson Estates. You're listening to the largest, fastest growing podcast for Toronto real estate on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Thanks for joining us, friends, as we continue to dive into all the things happening in our local market. Today, make sure you hit the subscribe button and like us, hit a notification, tell grandma, whatever it takes to make sure you don't miss a second. But part of this equation is we have to talk with the big players in our industry. And today we take the opportunity to do just that. We interview Adrian Pannozzo. He's a retired police sergeant and with a $40 million real estate portfolio today. That's after 10 years, by the way. He's got over 50 investment properties, which equal over 200 units. Along the way, he's created a construction company. He runs a property management company with over 500 doors. And he's also a partner in the real estate business with Mackay Realty Network. All of this to say, he has a great system in place right now, implementing a BRRRR strategy out in the Hamilton region. He's growing a significant portfolio. His company is called Executive Properties Capital, Inc., an investment company that raises capital through joint venture partnerships to purchase investment properties. Now, by the end of this podcast, if you're interested in his area, he's going to give his information as well, if you're looking for someone to partner with. But the main thing I want you guys to learn today is what the big people are saying, the big boys, the big girls in our industry are saying and doing to be successful amid COVID. Enjoy the show. Hey, Adrian, thank you for joining us on the show today. How you doing?
I'm awesome. Thanks for having me.
It's a great pleasure. I'm glad you sent us a message and we were able to connect and have you on our show. I know we've got a lot of listeners that are out in Hamilton and in the surrounding areas that are going to get a ton of value. And forget just Hamilton, like your portfolio is quite substantial. You're able to speak from not just, it's not just words, but in deeds. And so I'd love for you to kind of introduce yourself, if you could, to our audience. Tell us a little bit about how you got started in the world of real estate.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks. So I actually started investing 10 years ago. I was a police officer at the time, and I was working in the GTA with the Peel Regional Police. And my mindset back then was to buy a couple rental properties. And, after I put in my 30 years of policing, ultimately retire and subsidize my income with a couple properties that would cash flow. So that's what I did. I bought my first couple properties, like I said, 10 years ago in the city of Hamilton while I was still a police officer. Awesome. So fast forward, I guess, year after year, I bought one or two more, which ultimately led me to leave the police department and retire early. So I actually completed 21 years on the force.
Wow, thank you.
21 good years. I had an amazing career, had a lot of fun. It was a job that I wanted ever since I was a kid, so to speak. And, just one of those things on the bucket list that I did, and I liked it. And again, fast forward, my investments and my cash flow enabled me to leave after 21 years, leave early, and not complete my 30. So financially, I set up a position to be able to do that essentially and walk away from that career.
What made you choose real estate initially? Forget, obviously, the cash flow is enough for the investors in here. We know that's enough to pull you all the way. But I'm curious, what inspired you or made you consider real estate as that vehicle to generate wealth on the side?
I was working with a mortgage broker at the time, way back when I started. And, my mortgage was up for renewal. And this gentleman pointed out to me, obviously, hey, you have all this equity in your home. Your mortgage is up for renewal, but there's so much equity here over being in the market with our principal residents. And at that time, he's like, we should invest in real estate. Have you ever thought about buying a rental property? I was a newbie and didn't really know, but sounded like a great idea. And, as far as taking risk, I really didn't see major risk with respect to investing in real estate as opposed to, let's say, in the stock market. And I didn't have any experience in the stock market. And I thought, well, what's the worst case that could happen in real estate? We're buying bricks and mortar. It's not like it's going to go somewhere and disappear. Like, invest in the wrong stock, for example, and it goes belly up or whatnot, that is gone, so to speak. So
when was that year you started? You said it was 10 years ago?
Yeah, 10 years ago.
So that would have put us right after the financial collapse of 2008. So that lines up exactly with what you're saying too.
Yeah.
I think this is fantastic. Adrian, thank you for taking time to speak words of encouragement to other people behind you. I think that sometimes that's all it takes, right? You get one person give you some good advice, and next thing you know, you got 40, 50 properties and you're worth millions of dollars and talking to thousands and thousands of people. So I mean, the world is small in this way, and any way we can help the next generation is fantastic. So thank you for that. Now that you're in the world of real estate, how has that changed things for you? Forget the 9-to-5 policing, which obviously was a career that you enjoyed. How are things different today as a real estate investor?
I don't go to work every day, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Obviously, how's that saying go? Live life on your own terms. I live life on my own terms. I live off of cash flow, so to speak. But more importantly, it's given me the freedom to leverage my time and not be assigned to, a clock and a paycheck, and grow exponentially, not only my portfolio through joint venture partnerships, but actually become a really savvy entrepreneur and start several different companies along with being a real estate investor. So essentially creating multiple streams of income above and beyond just real estate investing, but predominantly, it's given me the power to touch a lot of people and joint venture with a lot of people and grow a massive portfolio.
Absolutely. So would it be fair to say that your financial stability is at another level?
I think that's a fair statement for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Now, along the way, you alluded to this idea of a mindset change, or like this progress, right? The human progress. When we're not so concerned about putting bread on our table or paying off that visa, we can really start to develop ourselves. So I'm curious what that development has looked like for you. What have been some key things that have changed in your mind, not just for getting into one property in real estate, but to really scale that and want to get to a level that's generational?
Yeah, good question. So mindset, and I'm sure you've heard this many, many times, but I think it's personal to everybody, but obviously an abundance mindset and stepping out of my comfort zone. Like I said, my thought process was I want 2 rental properties, and that's going to take me to retirement, and I'm going to live off a little bit better with some cash flow. When you get started in real estate and things are going in the right direction and you have that abundance mindset, I kind of put my foot down probably about 6 years ago and said, okay, I'm taking this to a different level. And I'm kind of the personality, if he can do it, I can do it. And I'm going to try it. If nothing else, if I fail, at least I can say I tried. And how's that saying? Fail forward. When you fall forward and take that step forward. So it hasn't been all roses. Yeah, there's been some hills to climb and mountains to climb, and there's been some mistakes, but you get up and you keep going and you have that goal. I set that goal, and my goal, when things started rapidly going well for us, my goal was I want to have 100 units. I want to hit 100 units for no reason other than just set a goal. Like financially, I didn't need it, but I want 100 units. Well, now I have over 200 units, but I set that goal. I made that mindset. I did it. And the next thing you know, now I'm at 200 units, but I was satisfied originally with 2 rental properties.
And this is, by the way, this is no shock to some of the investors on our podcast, but to a vast majority of people, these numbers, 200 units, 10 years, are very shocking. Even if we were to have the type of growth we experienced in Hamilton or in the GTA anywhere, like, how do you accomplish such success in such a short period of time? I really want to get to the heart of how you've managed to scale that portfolio, because not only does it work for you, but this is something that we can repeat for others too. So I'd love to hear what that looks like.
There's no way I would have been able to get there without the power of joint venture partnerships. You can only go so far on your own. And then if you're surrounding yourself with the right team of people, the right power people, overall the right team that have the same mindset, the same goals. There's no way I was going to get to 200 units on my own. The power of joint venture partnerships, leveraging your time, paying other people to do the small stuff while you focus on the big stuff was a big part of it. And segueing into predominantly using the BRRRR strategy to rinse and repeat our capital and our joint venture partner capital through various projects. So rinse and repeat, in and out, and filter that money and continue to buy properties, essentially are the three biggest components that allow me to scale to that level.
Yeah. And for anyone else, I mean, I'm sure we have listeners that do joint venture partnerships too. And the BRRRR strategy is a great one in order to, in other words, not expire the people you're partnered with. Like they're also, there's a limit to these resources, even if you did have 2 or 3 investors, and to be able to stretch their resources helps you as well. Now, is the BRRRR strategy kind of your main go-to right now? And how long have you been doing that? Has that been the whole way through?
No, we probably perfected it. We probably started it about 5 years ago. Yep. Again, predominantly in the city of Hamilton, and essentially built up an expertise with respect to that strategy. And again, getting back to the different income sources coming in, the light bulb went off and we decided, well, we're doing all these BRRRRs, we're doing all this construction, let's start a construction company. Yep. So we're not relying on, fly-by-night contractors on Kijiji.
Right.
So we started the construction company at the right time, so to speak, to just focus on our joint venture partnerships and clients that we work with, to really hammer home the construction component, because everybody's got a bad story about a general contractor. Everybody's had an experience where he's taken my money and run, or he never finished the job, or shoddy work. And God knows I've had some experiences like that too prior to starting our own company. Yeah. So yeah, perfecting that BRRRR over the course of the last 5 years is our really bread and butter of why people are so attracted to joint venture with our company.
Right.
And the kind of returns we're getting for them with the BRRRR strategy.
And with this construction company, do they work exclusively with these projects for you, or do they also, like, is it just a partner sister company that someone else that maybe is looking for someone as a contractor can partner with as well?
Predominantly just our joint venture stuff. We
Yep.
do use the company for, a client that is looking for some work to be done. But first and foremost, they're predominantly at my beck and call, so to speak, where we're focusing on our projects primarily.
As I kind of interview great minds, and hopefully our listeners are picking this up too, there's a lot of similarities in the growth pattern, right? We've got a couple units, then we start to get into some serious scaling, and it gets to a point where we can incorporate these parallel businesses like the construction company. You guys have also started a property management company, which we're going to go to in a second, but this seems to be the progression and being able to take it to the next level, because the person that realizes it's not good enough, that mindset doesn't change. It's like you can't undo that. And so it's like we keep going and going and going. So as we're going along here, we start to get into property management. I haven't had a large property management person on our show for a while, since we've kind of started this a few months back. So I would love to have you tell us a little bit about property managers, coming from the perspective of needing a property manager, then fulfilling that role yourself. What is something somebody needs to look for when they're really interviewing to find their partner in the property management sphere?
It grew. So when I started, again, building the portfolio slowly, I was in the trenches myself. So as far as, that saying, get your hands dirty and know the business.
Yep.
I know the business because I did it. I showed my own apartments. I screened tenants. I, went by all my properties with the lawnmower in the back of the trunk, cut all the grass, responded to the late night phone calls, so on and so forth. So I've been in the trenches, and I know I've gotten my hands dirty. But that being said, when the light bulb went off and said, why don't we start our own property management company? We took it to another level, and the systems and models we have in place with our property management company now are second to none. The client portals that the tenants can log in and check to see what's going on. The owners of the company can log in and see what's going on with everything. I think the biggest thing, and that's standard across the industry, but I think the biggest thing for our company, Executive Properties Inc., is the communication. The technology we have with the way we run the company is second to none. But the communication between the property manager, not only to the tenant, but to the owner of the property themselves, is paramount. A happy tenant is a good tenant for the most part, and they're gonna stay, they're gonna respect the property, and they're gonna pay their rent. And again, word of mouth, rinse and repeat, is paramount. So if I could give anybody any advice, obviously do your research on the company itself. Check their Google reviews on the company, and obviously, referrals is obviously awesome.
Yep.
Communication, I can't stress that enough, between the property manager, the owner, and the tenant, because if your tenant's happy, it's half the battle. And it's really the icing on the cake. I think we're up to just shy of 500 units now that we have under management, which is quite an achievement given where we are in the market and whatnot. And Hamilton's a very competitive market to be in with respect to property management as well. So given that we've only been in business, I believe property management just over 3 years, just shy of 500 units, is quite an achievement in itself.
Awesome. Congrats. Yeah. Toot your own horn, man. And I totally agree with the referral thing. That was the first thing I thought of, is anytime I need something, I go to someone that knows about that thing. And that seems to be the best way to do it. And so word of mouth travels really quickly, which would explain the growth you've experienced. Now, I do want to dive into this Hamilton conversation, and I know that's your backyard, but in general, I'm curious from two sides. One, from the investor perspective, is now a time we should be looking for properties? Why and why not? And the other side is from the property management perspective. Did you experience any issues with rent collection because of the moratorium? Like have those things, and if in any ways that these things are able to kind of overlap? I'm curious your perspective, because we've even on our morning podcast have talked about some of the stats out of your city. So
with respect to, is now a good time to buy? If you're following real estate and investing in real estate, you'll probably see even on the news and CP24 and whatnot, the market's on fire. Prices have skyrocketed, to put it nicely, since COVID. Back up March, April, when we first learned about COVID, and the market kind of took a standstill, but the prices didn't go down. And then as the city began to accept it, and we went into phase 2 and then phase 3 with respect to opening the city back up, it just went crazy. I think the market we're experiencing now is somewhat like the market we experienced in 2017.
Very much.
When it went out of control. So we're there. We're there now. I would say from April till now, what we're looking for and what our niche, multifamily homes in Hamilton, we're probably up anywhere between $65,000 and $80,000 all day long. Same house 6-7 months ago, 8 months ago is up. Let's round it off to $80,000 all day long, like that.
Yeah.
That being said, the numbers are still working in Hamilton at the moment with respect to the BRRRR and extracting most, if not all, of your capital out on that refinance. So is it a good time to buy? In my opinion, time in the market and not timing the market has always been my model. You're going to reap the rewards from real estate time in the market. So in my opinion, it's always a good time to buy. I can safely say the numbers in Hamilton, because we're still buying properties quite frequently, the numbers still work at the end of the day, even though the market's up.
And from the rental perspective, does that not freak you out? The moratorium and all the things we've kind of come through, has that hit you guys at all?
So out of my 200 units that I own through myself and joint venture partnerships, And I know it's hard to believe, but I got no reason to not tell you the truth. Out of my over 200 units, I have one unit in 200 that went delinquent on me over just around when COVID started. And I don't really think it was because of COVID, to be honest. I think the guy just decided, yeah, I'm done paying rent and I know you can't do anything, because unfortunately the government body offices like the sheriff's department, the landlord tenant board, it all shut down.
Right.
So I think this individual just wanted to take advantage of that and just, yeah, I'm not paying. So long story short, I think we lost about 6-7 months worth of rent with him. And this particular person was actually still going to work during COVID and still going to work, but it took us 7 months. Probably would have only taken us 2.5 under normal landlord tenant board operations.
Yeah.
But it took us 7 months to get him out. So not bad odds when you have over 200 units and you have one delinquent person, you know.
Interesting. Yeah. And the stats that I saw a couple of days back in Hamilton, from what I saw was in the 500s total, like total units. And over 300 of those were pre-COVID and less than 300 of them were post-COVID. So the story is very much the same. I do unfortunately think that it puts a bad taste in a lot of would-be investors' mouths and scares off a lot of people. Not to say there's no competition out there, because there's a ton of competition, but I just wanted to make it clear, and you're not the first on this show to say this, like the moratorium was more psychological than anything for the people that already have a portfolio. Okay, we're going to move on. I want to kind of close this in speaking with the newbie, someone that's like 1-2 properties, maybe not even own a house, let's say. So what would your advice be to someone who's looking at for their next property at being an investment property? What's something that they should keep in mind?
One major hurdle that I always get, or, conversation always leads to, I don't have all the money, or where am I going to get the money? Right. And there's always money out there, no matter which way you turn. If you're a reputable person and you have good credit and so on and so forth, you can always find the money, obviously, ideally it's coming from your line of credit, a home equity line, a family member, stuff like that. But if you got to go hard money lender, for the first one to get your foot in the door, my advice would be you're never going to score unless you get on the ice, right? You got to get on the ice to score. So get your foot in the door, get your foot in the market, regardless of the sacrifices you need to make. You need to get started. You need to get that first one under your belt. And as intimidating and, the anxiety you may feel from borrowing and leveraging to get started, I'm living proof. It's 100% worth it. So surround yourself with the right people, do the research. There's so many podcasts out there. There's so many professionals you can lean on and leverage and talk to. Do your research, get comfortable, surround yourself with the right team of people, potentially joint venture with somebody who, like ourselves, have abundance of experience. So you're not going down that road by yourself, right?
Yeah. So
take the plunge. You have to do it. You have to start. Take the plunge.
Yeah. And I hope people are feeling encouraged and motivated. One of the things I'm very much a realist. I like to see both sides. If there was one thing in your career, looking back now, that you found was a challenge or some kind of obstacle you faced while you were investing, what would that be? Just so that people can kind of embrace for impact.
I didn't have the people around me to help me to avoid mistakes. I made quite a few mistakes when I started, and there's nobody in my family, circle of friends, so on and so forth, or like-minded investors that I had connected with. And I could have saved myself a lot of time and obviously money from the mistakes I made. So there was challenges and then going to Hamilton, other than my mortgage broker at the time putting me to Hamilton saying, hey, cash flow in Hamilton is king. Again, 10 years ago, you got to take your money to Hamilton. I didn't know that. I didn't know Hamilton. So essentially I was in a city that I knew nothing about, but then again, talk about taking risks. I didn't have anybody to help me. mentor me, support me, and I'm in a city buying properties that I don't even know north, south, east, and west.
Right.
So had I had a good somebody to leverage, or maybe thought, nobody told me surround yourself with these kind of people, Adrian. Adrian just thought, okay, I got to do this on my own. I'm going to learn through my mistakes and I'm going to keep going, as opposed to, hold on a minute, there's so much help out there. There's podcasts, there's this, there's that, hire a coach, get into a joint venture. Those were some challenges that, caused me a lot of anxiety, and stress and mistakes. Had I had the right people in my corner, I could have probably fast forwarded a lot quicker.
Yeah, we got to speed up those 10 years, man.
It's been 10 years,
so
but who knows?
Adrian, there is a ton of people from Toronto headed your way. So for anyone that's interested in partnering with all of the fun things you guys are doing out in Hamilton area, how are people best to reach you and find a little bit more about your company?
Shoot me a quick email, executive properties, IES, @rogers.com, or shoot me a text, give me a call at 416-938-2641.
Wonderful. Thanks again for joining us on the show. We'll see you next time.
Cheers. Thanks, Brad.